January 12th. So our meeting is on the January 12th. And it's so hard to find a little place. It's not where the other meetings are, like it's really good sit or anything. It's opposite. So you go down this hallway and it's this room. Yeah, trying to get it. Set a reminder. Thank you. It's just hard to find. It's where it's not really in there last time. Yeah, same place. Yeah. But we met there.
Okay, you guys, let me give you a little update here. What's going on? So I'm at the Kenai Peninsula Borough. We're doing a meeting, and they're going to let David Haig have 10 minutes to address the council about judicial corruption. So here we go.
Full assembly, minus Ms. Eklund, who had an excused absent, and Mr. Eicher may or may not be joining us. His wife went into labor today, and so he's dealing with that, which I totally understand. So he may join us, may not. But anyways, at this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order, December 2nd, 2025, regular meeting of the Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly. This meeting is also being conducted through the Zoom meeting platform and can also be heard on KDLL FM 91.9, KBBI AM 890, and KIBH FM 91.7. If you would all be so kind as to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll now receive an invocation offered by Central Emergency Services Chaplain Frank Alioto. Thanks for being here, Frank. You may either remain standing or be seated. No one is required to participate.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today grateful for this community and the privilege of gathering to serve it. As we open this meeting, we ask for your wisdom, clarity, and grace to rest on every person in this room. Guide our discussions so they build up rather than tear down. Grant us insight that brings solutions, compassion that brings unity, and conviction that protects what is right and fair. May our efforts refresh this community, its families, workers, elders, students, and all who call this borough home. Bless each person who serves here, strengthen them, refresh them, and remind them that their work matters. May everything done in this session contribute to the flourishing of our neighbors and the prosperity of a shared future. We ask these things with grateful hearts. Amen.
Okay, thank you. I was just informed by Madam Clerk that Dale Eicher and Ms. Eklund are on Zoom joining us. At this time, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes, sir, thank you. President Tunson?
Here.
Vice President Cooper?
Here.
Mr. Dunn?
Here.
Ms. Eklund? I do see you on Zoom. Mr. Eicher?
Here.
Mr. Grable?
Here.
Mr. Hicks?
Here.
Ms. Neeson?
Here.
Mr. Truesdale?
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. We had three committee meetings today. Starting at 3 o'clock, we had a finance meeting, and then we had a policies and procedures meeting and a legislative meeting. The first was the finance meeting run by Assemblymember Neeson, and could you please give us a report?
Thank you, President Tunson. We heard today from Joy Mariner of BDO, who provided a fiscal year 25 financial statement report and reported that there were no significant findings and that our financial people do a very good job. We have good controls in place, and we can be confident of that. Ordinance 2025-19-18 was reviewed. That adds 2 full-time 911 public safety dispatch 1 positions to classified service and appropriates funds for the positions. Those will cover Southeast Alaska. We covered ordinance 2025-19-19, accepting and appropriating funding from the state of Alaska in the amount of $426,303, and approving projects to be completed for community purposes under the 2025-26 Community Assistant Program. Those are both eligible for the consent agenda tonight. We reviewed ordinance 2025-24, which has a public hearing tonight, amending KPB Chapter 10.04 relating to solid waste disposal and amending KPB 1.24.090 relating to minor offense penalty schedule to include violations of KPB Chapter 10.04. The mayor brought that, and it is subject to public hearing tonight as well. Ordinances for introduction were 2025-19-20, appropriating the Nikiski Senior Service Area funds of $3,000 to support 2023 and 2024 due diligence audit procedures that are above and beyond their MOA. Ordinance 2025-19-21, accepting and appropriating $3,954,358 in grant funds from the State of Alaska Department of Education and Early Development for the Soldotna High School exterior repair project. The hearing for those 2 ordinances will be on January 6th. We looked at KPB 7335, which was a letter of non-objection to the Alcohol Beverage Control Board regarding the transfer of location as requested by Cooper Landing Brewing Company, LLC, for their license number 2649. KPB 7336 authorizes the issuance of a letter of non-objection to the Marijuana Control Board regarding the new marijuana concentrate manufacturing facility requested by Grateful Extracts, and that same group will also receive, if added to the consent agenda, an issuance of a letter of non-objection to a marijuana retail store as well as a marijuana cultivation facility. Those items are all eligible for the consent agenda tonight. And that concluded our business.
Thank you, Chair Neeson. Okay, and the next meeting that we had was the Policies and Procedures Committee chaired by Assemblymember Truesdale. Mr. Truesdale.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today at our Policies and Procedures Committee meeting, we started at 4 o'clock, adjourned around 4:25. We started with the mayor's report, which you will hear on the regular agenda tonight. We had 3 resolutions and new business. Resolution 2025-044, establishing a revised military leave policy, just clarifying some language, increasing days from 16.5 to 21.5 days there. Resolution 2025-045, terminating the 2024 revised memorandum of agreement between the Kenai Peninsula Borough and the cities of Homer, Kenai, Seldovia, Stewart, and Soldotna for the purposes of intergovernmental administration of borough and city elections. Just terminating that MOA, giving the cities opportunity to review and put new MOAs in place. We had a laydown resolution 2025-047, approving the cooperative agreement between Kenai-Salamana Tribal Designated Housing Entity, Kenai Peninsula Borough, and the city of Kenai, and authorizing the mayor to execute that agreement. It just helps with their deadline. Part of the reason it is a laydown tonight, and clarify some language. Ordinances, we had 4 ordinances. Ordinance 2025-25, amending code KPB 3.04.235 regarding defense and indemnification. This was changing responsibilities to legal rather than risk for overseeing defense and indemnification requests. Ordinance 2025-26, amending Borough Code KPB 21.02.080 and KPB 21.02 .100 regarding advisory planning commission terms and vacancies. This is, allows by request members to stay on the board, allowing business to continue and a quorum to be met. Ordinance 2025-27, amending Borough Code KPB 1.08.180 regarding the definition of newspaper of general circulation. Basically, with times have changed in some of our ways of communicating, just define change of newspaper general circulation to ensure that basically that public notice is sufficient in going places where people are looking. Ordinance 2025-28, amending Borough Code KPB 16.20.030 to allow a volunteer firefighter EMS provider for the service area to serve on the Ketchimack Emergency Service Area Board. This is just a change in code to allow volunteer firefighters to serve on that board. We had several appointments, first of which was KPB -7321, conferring an appointment to the Nikiski Advisory Planning Commission. This was Tim Schur, seat A, term expiring on 9/30/2026. The mayor confirmed that. And KPB-7327, conferring appointments to service area boards. We had several North Peninsula Rec Service Area Board, Christopher Roof, seat B, term expiring October 2028. Seward Bear Creek Flood Service Area Board, there were 3 of them. Maylee Branson, seat C, expiring October 2028. Thomas L. Swan, seat F, expiring October 2028. Isaac Elhart, seat G, expiring October 2028. A couple more, so there'll be a Rec Service Area Board. Applicant was Elizabeth Diamond, seat D, term expiring October 2028. Ketchimack Emergency Services Area Board, there were 2. Frank Klima, seat D, term expiring 10/2028. And Derek Haas, seat E, term expiring 10/2028. And the mayor confirmed all of those. That was the end of my committee report.
Thank you, Chair Truesdale. The last committee that we had today was the Legislative Committee that's chaired by Assemblymember Dunn. Mr. Dunn.
Thanks, President Tunseth. Legislative Committee met this afternoon at 4:45 p.m. We had only one item of business on our agenda, and that was Resolution 2025-046, requesting the Alaska Legislature provide municipalities authority to enact a cap on real property tax assessments increases, sponsored by Mayor Machicki. We did have a fair number of questions regarding this resolution, and it is currently on the consent agenda, but I'll be removing that from the consent agenda so I can give a more full report at that time in the Assembly meeting. But basically, this is a request to the Alaska State Legislature due to the increases in property valuations the last few years that would smooth the curve of the property tax burden on local property owners. But as I said, I'll talk some more about the details of the committee discussion when we get to that point. And we adjourned at 5:08 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dunn. At this time, I'd be looking for an approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent and regular agenda. And that's it.
Are there any amendments to the agenda and consent agenda? Mr. Dunn.
I would like to remove Resolution 2025-046 from the consent agenda.
Mr. Truesdale.
Yeah, I move to add Resolution 2025-047 to the agenda and the consent agenda, and would request unanimous.
Unanimous has been requested. Are there any objections? Ms. Neeson, is your light on that you have an objection, or? No, okay. Again, are there any objections? Not seeing any. Mr. Truesdale, do you have one? Okay, Ms. Neeson.
I move to add ordinance 2025-19-18 to the consent agenda and request unanimous.
Unanimous has been requested. Are there any objections? Okay, seeing none, that's been added. Ms. Neeson.
I move to add ordinance 2025-19-19 to the consent agenda and request unanimous.
Unanimous has been requested. Are there any objections? Okay, seeing none, that's added. I think that's all of them. Okay, in a moment, the clerk will read the titles of the items on the consent agenda. After she reads them, you'll have an opportunity to testify about them. All items that stay on the consent agenda will be approved or set for public hearing, whichever is the case, when the Assembly approves the agenda and consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the consent agenda.
November 18, 2025 regular assembly meeting minutes. Ordinance 2025-19-18, adding 2 full-time 911 public safety dispatch 1 positions to the classified service and appropriating funds for the positions, sponsored by the mayor. Ordinance 2025-19-19, accepting and appropriating funding from the state of Alaska in the amount of $426,303 and approving projects to be completed for community purposes under the 2025-2026 Community Assistance Program, sponsored by the mayor. Resolution 2025-044, establishing a revised military leave policy, sponsored by the mayor. Resolution 2025-045, terminating the 2024 revised memorandum of agreement between the Kenai Peninsula Borough and the cities of Homer, Kenai, Soldovia, Seward, and Soldotna for the purpose of intergovernmental administration of borough and city elections, sponsored by President Tunset and Vice President Cooper. Resolution 2025-047, approving the cooperative agreement between the Kenai-Salamadoff Tribally Designated Housing Entity and the Kenai Peninsula Borough and the City of Kenai that authorizes the mayor to execute the agreement, sponsored by the mayor. Ordinance 2025-19-20, appropriating the Kiski Senior Service Area funds to support 2023 and 2024 due diligence audit procedures, sponsored by the mayor and Ms. Neeson. Public hearing on January 6th. Ordinance 2025-19-21, accepting and appropriating $3,954,358 in grant funds from the State of Alaska Department of Education and Early Development for the Soldotna High School exterior repair project, sponsored by the mayor, hearing on January 6th. Ordinance 2025-25, amending Borough Code KPB 304235 regarding defense and indemnification, sponsored by the mayor, hearing on January 6th. Ordinance 2025-26, amending Borough Code KPB 2102080 and KPB 2102100 regarding Advisory Planning Commission terms and vacancies, sponsored by Ms. Neeson and Mayor. Hearing on January 6th. Ordinance 2025-27, amending Borough Code KPB 108180 regarding the definition of a newspaper of general circulation, sponsored by the mayor, hearing on January 6th. Ordinance 2025-28, amending Borough Code KPB 1620030 to allow a volunteer firefighter EMS provider for the service area to serve on the Kachemak Emergency Service Area Board, sponsored by Mr. Dunn, hearing on January 6th. KPB 7335, authorizing the issuance of a letter of non-objection to the Alcohol Beverage Control Board regarding the transfer of location as requested by Cooper Landing Brewing Company, doing business as Cooper Landing Brewing Company, entry license number 2649 in Cooper Landing. KPB 7336, authorizing the issuance of a letter of non-objection to the Marijuana Control Board regarding the new marijuana concentrate manufacturing facility requested by Grateful Extracts, doing business as Grateful Extracts, License number 38155, subject to the standard conditions. This is located outside Kenai city limits. KPB 7337, authorizing the issuance of a letter of non-objection to the Marijuana Control Board regarding the new marijuana retail store requested by Grateful Buds Retail, doing business as Grateful Buds. License number 38156, subject to standard conditions, that's located outside Kenai city limits. KPB 7338, authorizing the issuance of a non-objection to the Marijuana Control Board regarding the new standard marijuana cultivation facility requested by Grateful Cultivation 2, doing business as Grateful Buds. License number 38150, subject to standard conditions, located outside Kenai city limits. KPB 7321, confirming an appointment to the Nikiski Advisory Planning Commission. Tim Shear, Seat A, term to expire September 30th, 2026. KPB 7327, confirming appointments to service area boards. North Peninsula Recreation, Christopher G. Roof, Seat B, term to expire October 2028. Seward Bear Creek Flood Service Area, Mail Branson, Seat C, Thomas Swan, Seat F, Isaac Elhart, Seat G, terms to expire October 2028. Seldovia Recreation Service Area, Elizabeth Diamond, Seat D, term to expire October 2028. Kachemak Emergency Service Area Board, Frank Klima, Seat D, Derek Hawes, Seat E, both terms to expire October 2028. That is the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, you'll have the opportunity for public testimony on any of these items that the clerk had just read. Is there anybody that wishes to make public testimony on any of the items that Madam Clerk just read? Yes, come forward, please. And just a reminder for you and others, please state your name for the record and the city that you live in, and push that little silver button. We'll turn your microphone on.
Got it. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, this is Justin Hansen. I am out of Soldana, Alaska, and I'd like to rise in support of the funding for the community, specifically towards that of Salteshi Trails and McNeil that is in one of the budgets. I believe that funding these ski environments and able to have ski trails is very important in our community, and that this does a lot and goes a lot of way to add funds to provide for those spaces and for those recreational areas that a lot of us skiers call home.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to give public testimony on any of the items that are on the consent agenda? Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed up on Zoom?
I do not see anyone.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I will close testimony and public comment on the items that are on the consent agenda. Ms. Cooper?
Yes, I request unanimous approval to approve the agenda and consent agenda as amended.
Okay, unanimous has been requested for approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Is there any objections? Okay, seeing none, we have an agenda. The motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda as amended has passed. So that brings us next to presentations with prior notice. We have two tonight. The first is going to be from Mrs. Kat Sorensen. Hi, Kat. She's here with the City of Seward to talk about the Seward Shore Power Project. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the Assembly. Oh, sorry. And do we have the presentation, or I will grab it? Okay, sorry. I haven't been in this room in like 8 years, and it looks completely different, so I'm out of whack. Great, thank you so much. So as mentioned, my name is Kat Sorensen. I'm the city manager for the city of Seward, and I'm here to talk tonight about the Port of Seward Vessel Shore Power Implementation Project, or what we refer to as the Shore Power Project for short. And so if we go to the next slide, there's a bit of an overview and agenda, so I won't take too long, just three big topics, talking a little bit about the project overview, the funding, and the expected project timeline. One thing I'd like to point out while we are on this slide, though, is when I refer to a battery energy storage system, or a BESS, that is an image of what that BESS system would look like. And so those are big batteries that will be utilized when we put the Shore Power Project in place. And so if you go to the next slide, we'll have a bit of a project overview. The project is located at the head of Resurrection Bay in Seward, Alaska, which is where our cruise ship dock is located. And that dock is a 2-berth cruise ship dock owned and operated by the Alaska Railroad. And so though they are one of the key entities in this project, the Alaska Railroad and the Seward Company are currently completely renovating, and when I say renovating, tearing down the old one and building a new one of the cruise ship terminal in Seward. And so that project is well underway and should be completed in time for the 2026 cruise ship season. And in conjunction with that project, the city of Seward applied for and received a grant to install shore power into the new cruise ship terminal. So when the cruise ships currently arrive in Seward, they run their engines all day while in town. This project will have them plug into the shore power provided by the city of Seward when they are hoteling in Seward. So that is about between 8 and 12 hours unusual, since we are a turnaround port, so we have longer stays. And a fun fact is that one ship inside the cruise ship terminal plugged in uses the same amount of power as our entire community in one day. So when we have 2 cruise ships plugged in, that doubles our electricity usage, and really adds a good level of economy of scale for our small, locally, municipally owned electric utility in Seward. And so within the Shore Power Project, we have a lot of the infrastructure upgrades as well. So we'll have a separate metering base and transformer system that starts up by our current generators now, as well as the installation of 12 megawatt battery energy storage systems. And all of those, all of that infrastructure will help accomplish 2 or 3 really important things for our community. The first is to power cruise ships while they're docked at the new cruise ship passenger terminal. That is the core essence of what this shore power is going to be doing. With that, we'll be able to reduce air toxins and greenhouse gases released by cruise ship vessels docked in Seward while they're in port. And then in addition to that, utilizing the battery energy storage systems, we'll be able to provide backup power grid for the city of Seward. And so in the summer, we'll have those battery energy storage systems in place so that when a cruise ship plugs in, it doesn't impact any of the grid or the rail belt transmission at all. So nobody will feel the impact of an 8 megawatt ship plugging in at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday, you know? So that'll help even that load out. But then in the winter, when the ships aren't in town, we'll be able to utilize that for our community. So we often see power outages between Anchorage, from where we purchase our power, and Seward. And this battery energy storage system will be able to be tuned up so that our community still has power if that transmission is broken in the middle of the winter. Something that we're really excited about. Currently we have 4 generators that we start up if and when that happens, and this will give us some more time before having to start up those generators. And then if you can go to the next slide, one of the really exciting things about this project is that it's 90% funded by the Clean Ports EPA grant and 10% by the Seward Company. So we are working on this and bringing this to Seward at no cost to our ratepayers or taxpayers, in conjunction with the Seward Company as they work on the cruise ship terminal. And if you could go to the next slide. The expected project timeline, like I said, the cruise ship terminal will be done in 2026. Unfortunately, we won't have everything in place by that time to have the first ship plug in, but we do hope to have it shortly thereafter, sometime in 27. And the grant itself is completed by the end of 28, so we have to have it completely wrapped up and ready to go by then, which is a really good initiative to make sure we get through this and get everything in place. One of the big issues is procurement that we're facing, and doing a really good job of overcoming that hurdle as we're in the preliminary design phase right now, making sure that everything is attainable within our timeline. One thing that we don't have in the expected project timeline, but that we're really starting to hone in now on, is a workforce development piece that we included in this grant application as well. Seward is home to AVTech, the vocational technical college, and we included a portion of these funds to create a workforce development program at AVTech for students from around the state to come and learn how to service this equipment and this infrastructure as well, so that we're growing homegrown employees to work on this as everything gets up and running, which we're really excited about. If you go to the last slide, this is my first time coming over and talking about this project, but if you're ever curious more about it, you can visit SewardShorePower.com. We have a website that will stay up to date on the project, and we also have the Seward City Manager's newsletter, which I put out every 2 weeks to kind of keep up to date as well, and there's usually a section about it as well, and you can sign up for that at cityofseward.us. I'll also be presenting at the Seward City Council meeting on January 12th if you wanted to come over and see the same presentation there. And then I'm open and available for questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. It seems like a really cool project. I guess I'll just start first. I just have a couple questions. So, and maybe they're all the same question. So is the cruise industry kind of on board with this as well? I guess that's the first question. And then, are they required to use that when they're import, or if, price was different one way or another, could they elect to still be using gas on board, I guess? And maybe the first question, if they're supportive of this, that probably answers it.
Yeah, so the answer to the first question is yes, they're very supportive of this. It's the technology that cruise ships are seeing the cruise industry is moving towards in many of the ports across the world and the state. And they were very on board and excited about this. With the new cruise ship terminal, its anchored tenant is Royal Caribbean, and they've worked hand in hand with us throughout this project to make sure that all of the infrastructure meets their requirements and the other requirements for ships that will be going to the dock. So yes, they are very much in favor of it. And as for the second question, we anticipate having legislation in place that would require cruise ships to utilize this while in port. We don't currently because we don't have the infrastructure, but we do anticipate bringing that forward and have a lot of models from other communities that have the same thing.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from assembly members for Ms. Swartz? Mr. Driegel?
In another life, I worked for the borough in the maintenance department.
Oh, cool.
And I'm familiar in the Seward area particularly, they deal with a lot of brown power situations. It's really tough on three-phase equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Will this system help smooth that power for the municipality area of Seward?
Yes, that's the goal and the intention as well, to make sure that we have a smooth system, especially as we add this infrastructure onto it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dunn?
Thanks, Ms. Sorensen. Yeah, I look forward to seeing how this project develops. I know that HEA installed a battery energy storage system a few years ago, and curious if you've collaborated with them and learned from them, and if you're going to be using the same technology, or if there's any advances since they installed theirs.
Yeah, so I'll answer the last question first. It seems as if there's advances in this technology every day. It's a very fast-moving industry and a lot of technology coming forth every month as we look into it. We have reached out to HEA and other utilities across the state to see what works. We are a unique environment, and we don't want to get a battery system that wouldn't necessarily be as efficient up here as it is down in, say, Hawaii or Arizona. So we've been collaborating with HEA. I believe GVEA up in Fairbanks also has some battery energy storage systems in place as well. And currently we don't know what system we'll be using. We're going out to RFP to follow all those processes, and once those come in, we'll be able to score them appropriately and look to the others who have done it before us to make sure we do it right.
Thanks.
Okay, are there any additional questions for Ms. Sorensen? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you for the update. Really
Thank you so much.
appreciate
I
it.
appreciate it.
Okay, next up, this is under presentations with prior notice. We have KPB 7340. This is a presentation by Mr. Dave Haig, and it is an update on the investigative grand jury. Excuse me. Mr. Haig, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name's David Haig, live out on Browns Lake out Funny River Road. Thank you for this opportunity. About 20 years ago, evidence surfaced indicating corruption in Alaska's judicial system and Department of Law, but all oversight agencies refused to investigate. In 2017, citizens realized Alaska's grand juries have the power to investigate government agencies when government agencies refuse. For years, citizens are blocked from getting the evidence to grand juries, and grand juries themselves are outright ordered to stop investigating. Despite Alaska's Constitution, which states, quote, the power of grand juries to investigate and make recommendations concerning the public welfare or safety shall never be suspended, unquote. Finally, citizens asked local elected bodies for resolutions to help. Resolutions 2022-004 and 2023-026, passed unanimously by this body, are examples. After judges order a sixth grand jury to stop investigating, citizens organized a statewide courthouse sit-in, which forces a new Kenai grand jury to be impaneled and allowed to investigate. The grand jury is immediately crippled. It's impaneled with too few jurors. Jurors go missing and are never found. Supreme Court changes grand jury rules to stop them from investigating court cases. Grand jury is appointed independent counsel who has a direct conflict of interest and has an interest in keeping the corruption covered up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The grand jury investigates for over 2 years, indicts a former judge, and writes a report and recommendation to the public on what was found. But judges dismiss the indictment and seal the report and recommendation before the public can see it. On November 29, 2023, the independent prosecutor wrote, the grand jury decided on August 2, 2022, to investigate allegations of corruption that were brought to its attention by David Haig during the summer of 2021. What did I give the grand jury? I gave them transcribed testimony from longtime Soldotna attorney Dale DeLifka, who testified under oath to Superior Court Judge Stephanie Joannides during my 2010 appeal. After receiving this, the Kenai grand jury subpoenaed and questioned attorney DeLifka, Judge Joannides, and numerous other witnesses. Here are excerpts of DeLifka's sworn testimony. Quote, your case has shades of Selma in the 60s, where judges, sheriffs, and even assigned lawyers were all in cahoots together. The reason why you have still not resolved your legal problems is corruption. I can tell you exactly what happened. In the early stages, you were one of the first that I realized it was corruption. At first, I thought it was ineptness. Over time in this journey with you, here's a corrupt case, here's a corrupt case, and here's a corrupt case. Now here's what happens when they come up on appeal. You have a Supreme Court sitting there looking at a pile of dung, and if they do right by you and reveal, you know, you have the attorneys going down, you have the magistrates going down, you have the troopers going down. You're one small part of the pocket. The reason is all gummed up at the top. You're just one of many. It's absolute, unadulterated, self-bred corruption. I talked to Judge Hanson about this. I lean on him all the time. He now sees it. The system crushes them. I have absolutely no faith left in the system. Never has there been a case in history that cries out for more for outside intervention because you have been to all the major players. Your case became more and more troubling to me because it was endemic of our whole community. It might have been cutting edge, but it wasn't the only one. Mr. Angleton and I more than once tried to get our local newspaper to help us deal with our imploding community, but they wouldn't, largely because, I don't know, there's a more political area than Kenai Soldotna. We have fish politics on the river, we're an oil patch place, and we just sit in a cauldron of political things. And those I can live with. When it went into the judicial system is when it became unnerving because fish politics and oil politics is just politics. But when it gets in the court system, which keeps this whole thing together, that was the poison that was disturbing, unquote. I also gave the grand jury evidence certified by Judge Joanides that directly implicates the Alaska Commission on Judicial Conduct and its investigator Marla Greenstein in falsifying investigations so corrupt judges can remain on the bench. The Kenai grand jury subpoenaed investigator Greenstein, but she lawyered up and refused to testify, according to their independent prosecutor. When the grand jury's independent counsel was asked how he was selected and asked why he never told the grand jury of his conflict of interest in advising them, he stated this on tape. The system wants this to go away, and they pushed it to me because they thought I would be a conduit to kill this. Just prior to passing Resolution 2023-026, Assemblyman Lane Chesley said to the Alaska Court System General Counsel Nancy Mead and Deputy Attorney General John Skidmore, quote, after listening to hours and hours and hours and hours of public testimony on this issue, is that you have a real crisis of confidence in your court system here. And I just encourage you to take that seriously. If I could do one thing on behalf of all the people who have come here to testify, it's to share with you how serious this is and how important they take it and how they are really struggling to have their voice heard. So if there's any way you can engage with them and help clarify things, I think it would go a long ways. Otherwise, I think the groundswell of concern is going to grow. However, a group, now including Borough Mayors Edna DeVries and our own Peter Machicki, have sought a meeting with Alaska's governor or attorney general on the foregoing, all to no avail. Instead, the AG wrote up a grand jury process without any input from citizens, which makes him the gatekeeper to grand juries. If this process stands, citizens will never be able to expose corruption that the Attorney General wishes to keep hidden. Honorable Assembly members, once again, we the people ask for your help in defending our Constitution from an attack that is also unjustly crushing innocent Alaskans. We humbly ask that you immediately form a working group to publicly investigate the circumstances that unconstitutionally stopped our brave Kenai grand jury. We ask you to pass resolutions asking all borough assemblies, city councils to support and supplement your investigation, and to demand the release of the grand jury report and recommendation. Lastly, we ask that you urge our governor and AG to answer citizen questions on this. Otherwise, as predicted, the groundswell of concern is going to continue growing, and we the people have now exhausted all peaceful remedies. Thank you for your time, and I would be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Haig. Are there any questions from members of the Assembly? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Mr. Haig. Okay, at this time, we will have public comments for items not appearing on the agenda, and I would just like to take a brief at ease while I talk to Mr. Kelly very quickly, and then we'll come back on record. So we'll just take a brief at ease. Okay, we'll come back on the record now. Just for the public's sake, just sort of share the discussion that was going on there. So the question was sort of what, and I see that there's a lot of people that are here to testify and likely on the same subject that Mr. Hague just spoke on. And so since that was on our agenda, the items for public comment that would be coming up now would be for items that are not on the agenda. And then you would have to wait through the meeting, and there would be a second opportunity for public comment where you would have that opportunity to comment. What I would like to do is, and it may be some discussion as to whether or not that would include items that are like actionable on our agenda or not. And so in an abundance of caution, what I would like to do is suspend the rules and take the public comments now and ask if there's any objection from the assembly for taking that route. So are there any objections from assembly members for taking that approach? Okay, seeing none, that brings us to public comments. And I have a list here of people that are signed up. I'll remind people when they come to the microphone, please state your name and the city that you live in the borough, and that you'll have 3 minutes to testify. And so the first name that I have on our list is Queen Parker.
Yeah, my name is Queen Parker, and I live in Sterling. And thank you for letting me say what I have to say here. I'm just reading this, and I don't expect any questions because they can be referred to David Hague. We found out that the state officials have been deleting information out of the Alaska Grand Jury Handbook to keep grand jurors and Alaska citizens in the dark about the powers of Alaska's grand juries and of the right of Alaska citizens to approach and ask the grand jury to investigate. 2016 Grand Jury Handbook, from which information on the days the grand jury meets was deleted. See pages 6 and 7, which were deleted in 2019 Alaska Grand Jury Handbook. Original Alaska Grand Jury Handbook, from which all the yellow highlighted information was deleted, which explains the right of Alaskan citizens to directly ask the grand jury for investigations and inform the grand jury of their rights to initiate investigations into public officials and agencies on their own. State of Alaska petition for an unimpeded grand jury investigation of judicial corruption, whereas Article 1, Section 8 of the Alaska Constitution clearly states the power of the grand juries to investigate and make recommendations concerning the public welfare or safety shall never be suspended. And whereas Alaska Statute 1240.030 states the grand jury shall inquire into all crimes committed or triable by the court and present them to the court. The grand jury shall have the power to investigate and make recommendations concerning the public welfare or safety. And whereas Alaska Statute 1240.040 states, if an individual grand juror knows or has reason to believe that a crime has been committed that is triable by the court, the juror shall disclose it unto the other jurors who shall investigate it. And whereas grand jury Ray Southwest was prohibited by District Attorney Scott Leaders and Judge Jennifer Wells from disclosing to the other jurors his knowledge and evidence that triable crimes were committed by District Attorney Scott Leaders, numerous judges, Judge Investigator Maria Greenstein, troopers, and other officials. And whereas the Alaska Judicial Council official report, the investigation grand jury in Alaska confirms the grand jury's most important role is to inquire into the willful misconduct in office of public officers and to find indictments in connection therewith, and confirms public petition in a proper way to initiate such investigations. And whereas Ray Salford, David Hague, and others have evidence of felony criminal acts by public officials, that this may be systematic and that this represents a very great concern to the public's welfare and safety. And whereas all prior legal attempts to require this evidence be investigated and have been suppressed by government, therefore we, the citizens of Alaska, petition for an unimpeded grand jury investigation with independent counsel such as Henry F. SCHUELKE into knowledge and evidence regarding state corruption possessed by Ray Southward, David Hague, and others without further delay. Good, I made it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Queen. Ms. Parker, excuse me. Next on the list is Vlastik Merrick, and I apologize if I pronounce people's names wrong. You're next. Oh.
Hey, Zoom. I think he might be on Zoom.
Might be on Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom by that name? Okay, well, maybe come back to that one. Next on the list is Brenda Boudreau. Is Brenda on Zoom? Okay, Brenda, if you're there, unmute yourself, state your name and city, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, yes, my name is Brenda Boudreau. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, and I am attending this meeting tonight, exercising my authority as that the Constitution of the United States commands me to exercise. I am here because the supreme law of the land is being ignored, violated, and trampled on by the very institutions sworn to uphold it. Let me be clear, the Constitution is not a suggestion. The Supremacy Clause is not optional, and we the people are not tolerating tyrannical traitors. Deception is not legal or lawful. The Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. That means no state policy overrides it, no judge's opinion overrides it, no prosecutor's theory overrides it, no law enforcement narrative overrides it. If the state action violates the Constitution, that action is void. Not debatable, not revisable, it's void. And when the government refuses to obey the Constitution, we the people have a duty and responsibility to step forward and enforce it. Our great nation has fallen from a modern-day Trojan horse, in my opinion, which is the infiltration of every part of our government, especially the legal and voting systems. I'm here to tell you that I'm willing to stand up and fearlessly defend our Constitution and our freedom, and to take our constitutional republic back from these infiltrators. I speak in peace and nothing but truth and facts. I have spent the last 4 years watching courts, police, and prosecutors abandon the Constitution in real time. I'm currently being prosecuted for a trumped-up, perjured report from an Alaska State Trooper. This is not theory. This is not politics, and it's not opinion. It's reality. I've documented judicial and prosecutorial misconduct, 82 violations to be exact, in the current case that I was drugged into. The only constitutional safeguard is the grand jury, who has actually been silenced by rule changes that violate every document they swore to uphold. This is why I'm here. This is why the Assembly must act. This is why Alaska must free the grand juries. This is not about my case, though. It's about the systemic collapse of the constitutional government. Judges are refusing to follow the law, prosecutors advancing cases without evidence, law enforcement profiling citizens such as myself, and violating our constitutional protected rights. Courts denying the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Bill of Rights, the grand jury access blocked by unconstitutional rule, and citizens left defenseless against a court system that answers to and safeguards itself only. This is exactly what the founders warned us about. The Declaration of Independence lists the abuse we are living right now. And I quote, "He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people, for depriving us in many cases of the very benefits of trial by jury." Alaska's own constitutional framers.
Ms. Boudreau, your 3 minutes is up. Could you just wrap up, please?
Okay, sorry. Anyway, I want to expose tyranny and defend liberty, and I'm here to restore accountability also, and I'm praying that you will join us to ensure the grand juries are not blocked and people's shield can be returned, because when the government violates
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boudreau. I appreciate the comment. Next on the list, we have Mary Reeves. Mary Reeves is on Zoom. Okay, Ms. Reeves.
Hi. Thank you for hearing me.
And if you could please state your name and your city for the record.
Alaska. I believe in David Haig. I know him well. I've personally seen the toll that this case has taken on him, and that alone is wrong. You know, I'm a fish and wildlife biologist, so I actually understand the roots of this situation. I do believe the state of Alaska threw him under the bus, and he should not, as an individual, be forced to take on what he's had to take on with the Alaska judicial system. I mean, our state founders had the foresight to impanel grand juries because they know that power corrupts, right? The reason I follow this is actually personal because I myself have been embroiled in a family law case in the state of Alaska that I consider bringing to the grand jury. And the reason I would bring it to the grand jury would be because 3 years into my divorce case, after I lost my children, I was trying to file for custody with my children, who I haven't seen in 3 years, and I filed a motion for a change of judge. Everyone told me I should not file for a motion of a change of judge because it would never get accepted. And indeed, I filed it. I was forced to represent myself because he had taken all the money and I had run out of money after paying $200,000 in legal fees. And then I do go through, of course, okay, so the motion for the change of judge, this is part of our judicial process. You have to point out where the judge did things wrong, which our judge, our Superior Court judge, and I will not name her here, did a lot of things wrong in our case. She was new, she was inexperienced, and she was inattentive, or she's just corrupt, which I'm coming to the conclusion that she is just corrupt, and now I have called her out to the Supreme Court judge by filing the motion for the change of judge that I'm required to do. So that's a process problem. That's like a grand jury solution problem. But I've been following David Haig, and I have known him for several years now, and I'm watching what he's going through. I'm like, I'm not going to put myself through this, especially not when now there's this Congress has taken over, meaning the Alaska Congress wrote this bill to take over the grand jury investigation and buried his whole grand jury investigation. This is judicial corruption, and they're working with the attorneys, and that's what I'm here to say. I think, I don't know if I'm out of time. I have plenty more to say, but I think I'm done. If you guys are ready to move on.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Reeves, for your testimony.
You are so welcome.
Next on the list is Tom Patmore. Is he also on Zoom? Okay, Tom's on the phone. How do we do that one?
He's on Zoom.
Via phone, okay. Mr. Patmore, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record in the city that you live in, and the floor is yours. And I think it's *9 to unmute if you're on your phone.
I see a phone number ending in 301. Is that Mr. Patmore?
Okay, maybe we'll come back to Mr. Patmore as well. And I just remind the public as well, we're going to keep this to an aggregate of 20 minutes, and so I'm trying to move through everybody as quick as possible so that everybody has a chance to speak. So I don't intend that to be disrespectful at all. I just want to make sure we can try to get as many people as we can. So next on the list we have Paul Nelson. Is Paul in the audience, or is he on Zoom as well? Okay, Paul, you're next. You're on Zoom. Please state your name and the city that you live in for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Paul Nelson. I live in Haines, Alaska. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, thank you for allowing me to speak. From my personal experience with our legal system, it is clear to me that David Haig and those who have testified are very concerned about the loss of our constitutional rights and loss of access to the grand jury. We, the people, are asking for a peaceful solution to the loss of our constitutional rights and the violation of our civil rights. I can't tell you I know the answer but I know that we need to do something to stop the corruption in the government of the state of Alaska. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Okay, next on the list, we have Mr. Ray Southwell. I think I saw him in the audience. Okay, same story. Please state your name for the record, the city you live in, and you will have 3 minutes.
So where's the button? One on the right?
I think it's that silver one there, right? Yep, you got it.
Did I turn it off?
You're back.
No, now it's on. Is it on? Can you hear me? Yes. Oh, great. I am Ray Southwell. I'm a resident of Nikiski. I want to express my gratitude for your interest in the grand jury. And I also want to tell you that I've not had any personal experience with the judicial system anywhere in the country. David Haig has been instrumental on educating the public about this matter. There are 2 other active individuals who have made significant contributions, David Ignell and Thomas Garber. Most people are familiar with our 3 branches of government, executive, legislative, and judicial, all separate branches. It is important to recognize that the people are the 4th branch of government. This realization was paramount to our founders, and it's why the independence of the grand jury was a crucial aspect of our constitutional framework. The Second Amendment was also codified in our Constitution to protect this fundamental right. On March 22nd, 2023, the Alaska Senate had a hearing to discuss changes to the grand jury. 2 presenters, Nancy Meade, General Counsel for the Alaska Court System, and John Skidmore, Deputy Attorney General for the Criminal Division. It is concerning to see 2 separate branches of government working in a concerted way against the interests of the people. Ms. Meade presented the history of the grand jury and how procedural changes that occurred along with the reasons. Grand jury investigations were rare, 1985, 1990, but things started to change in 2015. Part of that had to do with Tammy Wilson's request for a grand jury investigation of OCS. Ms. Meade did not disclose to the Senate that there were other grand juries with members who attempted to bring information to their grand juries starting in March 2018. All 3 were subsequently stopped. Ms. Meade explained the rules changes are implemented by the Supreme Court primarily through a committee process. However, in certain circumstances, they adopt rules in a different manner. She mentioned that the Supreme Court needed an expedient way to get a rule accomplished faster than the committee process. I wonder why. I find it intriguing. I would like to explore the reason this expediency in December of 2022, but I can't get into that because I'm running out of time. I will just let you know that the reason was because there was 3 individuals bringing information to the grand jury. One of those is here tonight, Thomas Garber, as well as David Haig, but Thomas Garber went to the court. He went over several times. The judge was going to give him that opportunity to bring it to the grand jury, but what happened was the Supreme Court changed the rule, 1993, 14 days before his hearing where he would have accomplished that. And I just want to finish with this. He appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court just gave its ruling on November 28th, just 4 days ago. In that ruling, Mr. Garber had presented a case called United States versus Williams. In this federal case, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled the grand jury is an institution separate from the courts. However, the Alaska Supreme Court declared they do not have to comply with the Williams ruling because it was based on the U.S. Constitution, not Alaska's Constitution. Thank you for your time. I want to just say one last thing. In my life observations and experiences, and this has got to do with safety and welfare, when civil justice fails, Street justice explodes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Southwell. Okay, we're coming up on our aggregate of 20 minutes. I think I have time for maybe a couple more. Next on my list is Mr. Bob Bird. Mr. Bird, if you would state your name for the record, please, and the city you live in, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Bob Bird, I'm a 48-year resident. In the Super Bowl sweepstakes, I'm from Nikiski. In the Super Bowl sweepstakes of lawfare, David Haig leads Donald Trump 20 years to 4. All of you here have an oath to the Constitution, which has been violated by all 3 branches of the government, which, by the way, there are not 3 co-equal branches of government. All you have to do is read it. It's the state constitution and the federal constitution. The low man on the totem pole is the judiciary. Secondly comes the executive, and supreme is the legislature. That's a fact. I've debated for the U.S. Senate on this, and they can't challenge it. So the bottom line is the legislature could have impeached the judiciary long ago. They don't have the courage. Governor Dunleavy has Article 3, Section 16 of the state constitution to intercept any violation of the Constitution. And one of them would be Supreme Court Order number 1993. He also could have stopped ranked choice voting because there's a law against having more than one subject on a citizen initiative. And it's in the Constitution. You're only supposed to have one for a legislative bill. And that's also been violated. The bottom line is, the Constitution has been overthrown by the judiciary. And I can go back to 1996 when that happened. It's only David Haig's case that has been that has pricked this boil. And now you have the chance to push the pus out. How? Because you're not responsible for the failure to impeach or Governor Dunleavy's failure to exercise Article 3, Section 16. But you can pass a resolution that this is enough. It is enough. And when the Borough Assembly gets behind it, then you're going to have the municipal assemblies of Kenai and Seward and Soldotna, maybe Homer. I hope so, because this cuts across politics. There is no justice available when the Supreme Court thinks it can play with the state constitution like it's their personal toy. It is not. There's one thing ahead of these 3 branches of government. The legislative is the head of the governmental branch, but the people are higher than all 3. How can you possibly get the people to have a consensus? You can't, because we're of all shapes, sizes, religions, and so forth, but not when they come together as a grand jury. They don't have any knowledge of each other. They don't have any understanding of what your politics or religion is. When the grand jury comes together, they can root out corruption if they are permitted to do so. And it's been corrupted by the executive branch with their cooperation with Supreme Court Order 1993. Mr. Southwell said it perfectly. When civic justice fails, you're going to get street justice. You can do this. You can change it by making a statement tonight, by passing a resolution in support to have an investigation, and to encourage the governor to exercise Article 3, Section 16. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. Okay, we have time. I'll take one more. The next name I have on my list is Steve Young. Mr. Young, please come to the mic, state your name for the record and the city you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I have found out about this today. Steve Young's my name, Soldotna Country, Alaska. And I worked on this, did my best penmanship, rewrote it. 3 minutes isn't going to cut it. This doesn't cut it. What these people are saying here is at a different level than just the corruption of the court system, of which I was firsthand pounded with by this court here. What I want to affect on you guys is the idea that these actions that are taken by the individuals that you hear from here don't just stop with these people. They go to the schools when you're dealing with divorce and custodies and torn up children. You're going into churches where families are looking at each other going, oh, you deal with the Kenai court system. It's an automatic. The level, I believe, of money, and this should interest everybody because it's money that makes everybody go around. The level of money that is pulled out of this community through that court system, I believe, is in the millions of dollars. My example is this. When you go to the court, and I've never been involved in anything with the court system, kept my head down, worked, 20 years of cancer, whatever, never asked for a dime for nobody, worked. And when you go to the court, you tell them the proper procedures are, who we are, where we are, and the case number. In my case, I thought it was awful strange, and I couldn't focus on it because I have a boy who desperately needed his dad. It says, you know, it says the plaintiff's name, and then my name, and then in parentheses, this is the first thing a judge is reading. And in parentheses, a Tier 2 retirement. That's what it was all about. My state of Alaska Tier 2 retirement. It's like walking onto a Mercedes dealership with an 850 credit score, and their eyes get little diamonds in them. What can we take from you? And we're going to use children as cannon fodder. We're going to use children as leverage. They got away with it with me. We had a custody investigator. When it was all said and done, I went to the Attorney General's office with 80 pages documented. This lady lied through her teeth to a sitting jurist, lied to me, lied to a child, on and on and on. I brought this to a judge, and that is where you do not understand when you've had your constitutional rights smashed until it happens to you. You don't understand when somebody's child gets hit out on the road by a drunk driver unless it's your child. Then it's a little more deeper. I had a judge violate me, psycho violate, furious, wanted to murder me. This is not an exaggeration. The Attorney General told me the Department of Licensing has a disciplinary board. They says, shouldn't have a license. There's nothing we can do. We suggest you take it to the Better Business Bureau. That's garbage. The judge lit me up. Multiple constitutional, multiple violations, civil. I will wrap it up here real quick, okay? So here's my conclusion here. The court in this small community is an incestuous relationship with so-called counselors, shrinks, custody investigators. Conclusion, the court in this small community is an incestuous relationship with so-called counselors, shrinks, custody investigators, and attorneys. They live by an America code. Everybody stay silent. It is doubtful that there are any attorneys on this peninsula that have the skill sets to address the multiple constitutional and civil rights violations. They just don't have it in them. The court pulls massive amounts of money out of this community. Business owners should take note. I don't go buy a new bed. I don't go buy anything. You took me from 817 credit score to less than zero.
3 minutes.
Two more things. That custody investigator was an asset of the state, protected by everybody involved. And finally, what I teach to just about anybody with as much love and smile as I can. The Kenai court is the penicillin resilient syphilis on our community. The constitutions are not suggestions. They are enforceable. I filed 11 pages with the court system after my boy turned 18, letting them know you guys got issues coming. And finally, real quick, while things need to be addressed legally, there's nothing to stop me, and I told these people, there's nothing to stop me from going asymmetrical on these people. I will destroy their professionals, I will destroy their finances, I will destroy their standards.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
For the community.
Appreciate your testimony. Okay,
Mr.
so
President, my name is Jim Caswell. I'd like to know where my name is on the list.
you're next, Mr. Caswell. We'll take you and we'll call that the last one. How about that? You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and the city that you live.
My name is Jim Caswell. Our family has property on Keystone Road, but I drove down. I'm living in Anchorage. I drove down from Anchorage to speak with you tonight. I have a special appreciation to the Assembly. I helped form the Denali Borough for 2 years, and I've served as Assembly member for the first 15 years. Over that period of time, like you, we hear all kinds of comments, sometimes complaints, various issues. We don't hear it often enough, and I want to tell you, I thank you for your service. I thank you very much. You do, I know you do the best you can to support your community, and that's commendable. Now, the issue is the grand jury and judicial corruption in the state of Alaska here. I want to point out that the grand jury was established first in Article 1 of our Constitution. It is not part of the judicial system. It is not subject to the judicial system. It works with the judicial system in most all cases under rules that they've come up with that are totally appropriate for the normal business. But when a grand jury wants to investigate corruption in government, especially corruption within the judicial system, their independence has to prevail. They were created before the legislative, executive, or judicial branch of government. It's in Article 1 because that our founders of the Constitution saw that the grand jury would be the last resort that a concerned public would have to take some action against its own government if they were misbehaving. That's what we have here. That's what we have here. The Kenai, some of your residents here served for 2 years approximately on the Kenai grand jury investigating judicial corruption. And they wrote a report. I don't know what's in the report. And I don't know which way it goes, but Judge Thomas Matthews has illegally, in my opinion, sequestered that report. He will not release it to the public. He has no right to do so. The grand jury is independent from the courts. And when they made that report, it's a public document. And the judges have bullied us to believe that they have the right to conceal it. They do not. And this information is getting more and more well known in public. I plead with you, please respect your citizens. There were 12 members of the grand jury. One went missing, and that was a setup probably. But we don't know, was that grand juror paid off or dead or what? But it was a system. It was a setup, and the judges used it to drop the indictment against a standing judge. There's all kinds of bad stuff going on here. Please do what you can to establish a commission to look into some of these matters and find out where your member went, where the missing 12th juror is. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kessel. Okay, at this time, we will close public comment and be back on to our regular agenda.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mayor Machicki.
Just very briefly, this assembly has acted. We passed resolution 2023-026, which covered all of the points you discussed today. It passed 8-0, one person was absent, and that passed in March of 2023. So I don't know if a lot of you know that or not, but we had Mr. Hague in, and it passed unanimously in this body. It was under 2 years ago. Just over 2 years ago, so it sounded like folks maybe didn't know that we had already passed a resolution of support.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so at this point of the agenda, that brings us to, it looks like it brings us to the mayor's report. Mayor Machicki.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to cover a couple of things. Wanted to give a little school bond update of the projects that are completed versus projects still on the slate. And this is the 2022 bond projects. KCS concession stand and restrooms is complete. Chapman Elementary parent student drop off is complete. Hope School roof replacement is complete. Sewer track and turf field is complete. Homer High School front entrance rehab is complete. The Soldotna Elementary, that is probably the cutest family I've ever seen in my life, but very well behaved. Soldotna Elementary School replacement, so prep renovation, the design kickoff meeting is scheduled for December 15th. Abatement, demolition, construction work will be starting by March of 2026. I'll be leaning on projects people every day for as soon as possible to get that completion moving, but with a realistic time target. Kenai Middle School security design is complete and the invitation to bid is prepared for release January 2026 for work to be completed by the end of the 2026 season. High school project phase 1 substantially complete. Phase 2 is depending appropriation of the grant funds that is on the agenda tonight. North Star Elementary School replacement design is complete with an ITB scheduled for release in January 26. Mountain View roof replacement design is complete. ITB scheduled for release in 2027. Kenai Middle School, Homer Middle School parent-student drop-off design RFP to be released in February. Mountain View Elementary parent-student drop-off design and construction 2027. Kiski Track and Field design is complete, subject to consolidation committee findings and available funds. And the borough maintenance shop is still on hold. We decided to put the kids first, schools first, and that's where we are on that. I'm open to questions on that, but I'll just go through my whole report and then you can come back. We just posted this last week, the KPB solid waste update. We've had a lot of productive meetings with groups all over the borough. We have a meeting this week with Regroup. We've been contacted by other parties that didn't know existed, like Homer Drawdown, Mr. Dale Banks. Great ideas from folks about how to efficiently recycle. We are trying some new things at the landfill to make it more efficient, to better serve our constituents. This is on the KPB solid waste webpage so that you don't have to look for it, and I've given each assembly member a copy if you have questions. I'm happy to cover that. In fact, the status of the other solid waste projects is on that page as well, so I won't be redundant. On other things going on, a lot of visits from folks very concerned about offshore impacts to our salmon, halibut, crab, and other species. And I met with Oceana last week. Very interesting research on the fact that the North Peninsula Commission has struggled with determining capacities and catch caps, bycatch caps. So I don't want to make a big political thing out of it tonight, but it's a thing. And something at some point, as more information comes in, we should probably think about discussing as an assembly. I'm not going to go over my typical meetings, that's boring stuff, but we did have a great meeting today with the city managers all over the borough. Ms. Sorensen was there from Seward, with Kenai, Soldotna, Seward, Homer, and Soldovia. You know, I meet with the mayors periodically. But a lot of common issues that we're all dealing with, and just my call today was to work together. We are one community of 62,000 with 6 cities. Yes, including Ketchikan City, who was not there today. But a lot of commonalities on things like plating issues, planning issues, land use, a lot of things that affect all of us, and I'm hoping that we can work better together to make sure we're using our tax dollars as wisely as possible and get some results. There's a lot more efficiency in doing things together than there is with everyone going alone, and that was a good part of the discussion today. So that's all I have for now. I'm just open to questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions from assembly members for the mayor about the mayor's report?
Okay, guys. So I'm way back here. I'm trying not to disturb them. So I'm going to get out of here. I've got to go all the way back to the valley. Thanks for watching. That was crazy. I'm going to cut this up. Sorry I haven't put any videos out lately. I've been super busy. A lot of stuff coming up later on. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys the next one. Later.
Relating to the minor offense penalty schedule to include violations of KPD Chapter 10.04. This was brought to us by the mayor and referred to the finance